Okay, we're on now. Good to go. Hi guys, how you doing? This is my word with the opposition round two. Although in the case of this week, the Calcutta Cup Special, pardon me. So it's the word with the old enemy. My guest today is Andrew Daniel, English born, staying in South Africa. It's good to have you on, Andy. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good, man. It's all good Sunday, but we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, both Scotland and England coming off of losses at the weekend. England, safe to say, not the best first half in Paris. Not the best 60 minutes. 60 minutes. I think only Johnny May was your saving grace in that game. What are your thoughts on how England did on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I was worried going into the game for two reasons. France picked a really exciting backline, and I like what Galtier's done there, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because Galtier's never really shone as a coach, so to speak. His record isn't actually that great, but maybe some people are designed for international rugby. But they no, they picked a really exciting back line. My worry was that they were going to allow that back line to really purr, but I thought that England might just do enough up front to sort of stop that happening. As it turned out, their very young pack, sort of bullied us for 60 minutes. So all credit to France, to be honest with you. They came and played with no fear, G'd up, perfect starting game for them really, because I think there was a lot of energy ready to go. And we got caught cold. World Cup hangover or not, it's not good enough, is it, from a national team that's actually just been in a World Cup final and played really well up until that final, to then just not turn up. And you could tell that there were players just not at the races. I'm not going to sit here and slate Ben Youngs too much, but you could see it. Pick up, two-step pass, pick up, two-step pass. It was like on repeat. There was just no fizz. There was no bite to it. Ford's passing there was no bite to it. Farrell couldn't catch it. It was just it was all a bit strange, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not worried if you want to slate any player. By the way, that's totally your call. I'm not gonna stop you doing that. But yeah, no, I fully agree with you. Especially with Ben Youngs, who was looks very off form. He hasn't looked in form since the World Cup, to be fair, and obviously with Leicester not doing that well either. But in general, apart from him, what did you think of the rest of England's selections? You're just saying before we came on a bit about Curry at 8, and you're thinking Elliot Daly would be better as a 13 than a winger or fullback.
Yeah, I just think I get that Eddie Jones likes to experiment and try people, and I'm not fully against that. But there comes a line where you have to give up on that on those experiments. I mean, he must talk to all the club coaches, and I know he hasn't necessarily got the greatest relationship with all of them. Certainly in Exeter,
Mm-hmm.
that might be why there's a few Simmons short of a squad. But he kept trying Daly at fullback during the World Cup and before the World Cup when clearly Watson was the best choice. And Watson, I think, would have started had he not got injured on Saturday at fullback. And it cost us. It cost us in more than a few Test matches. And positionally, Elliot Daly got caught out in the final as well. So he sort of had his fingers burnt by that. And then he decides he's probably got the best back row pairing, flanker pairing in world rugby at the moment. I'm not saying individually they're the best players, but as a pair, they're phenomenal. And he puts one of them at number 8. And I just don't understand how that can be anything other than weakening your squad. Like, and then Courtney Laws, again, he's trying him at 6. It's like, Eddie, you've tried it 3 times, man. It's never worked. I get it. But Courtney Laws as a marauding second rower is great to watch. Watching him not really sure where he's supposed to stand, and Curry didn't really know whether should I be going over the ball, should I be trying to make the next tackle, should I be carrying. I don't. Like, you could just tell that it just takes them out of their natural environment, which is obviously gonna weaken it. So and I mean Ben Earl stayed in the squad this week, but again, to be honest, he packs down at 8 for Saracens, but he's not necessarily an out and out
Yeah,
8.
yeah.
So I don't know. Is it what it's like? I say once bitten, twice shy. It's not like 8 times bitten, 9 times shy. Because I just want to see him pick people in their positions where they're comfortable.
Because he's
Because
tried that something like 3 times now with the second row and the blindside flanker. Because he did it with Itoje as well, and no, it was just Itoje. And he did it with Laws, which is again two very talented second rowers. It absolutely is quite baffling, and the amount of depth England have, not just in the Premiership as well. I mean, especially. Because there's no recognised number 8 in this squad, really. I mean, I know you say Brendan Earls, but he's not an out-and-out 8, where you've got Sam Simmons at Exeter. You could argue he's a bit more of a 7, but, I mean, he can do the job at 8 very well. You've got Nathan Hughes, obviously, who's going well with Bristol right now. And you've got Alex Drambrat. Is that how you pronounce his last name, pardon?
Alex Donbrandt, yeah.
Donbrandt at Harlequins, who's going well right now, from what I've seen of him.
So. Yeah. I mean, he obviously didn't make the squad last week, and then just went and had 2 barnstormers for Harlequins in a row. Nathan Hughes has had his chance for me. Never quite replicated his Wasps at the time form.
But he's going well at Bristol just now. Wouldn't you think that should play?
Yeah, but I don't know. He sort of tends to lumber around a bit in an England shirt. I don't know why he's not as dynamic. And some players, maybe they just don't step up. I'm not saying he's always played badly, but I find with Hughes that he might have one good game and then he'll probably have 2 or 3 bad. So it's probably consistency is why he's not been picked. I mean, like first game of the season against Bath, he was incredible. I think he was man of the match. He was carrying like an absolute. And then the next game, he just goes missing again. So I think there was rumours that Eddie Jones wasn't happy with Donbrandt's fitness. I don't know where he gets that from. That's again a complete rumour, but no smoke without fire, I suppose, because I've read it in a few places. So yeah, I don't know, and I don't know what Simmons has got to do. I don't know. I don't know if he's got something on Eddie or something.
I don't know. Well, that's the thing. Like before he got injured, I thought Simmons was maybe not quite taking over Billy Vunipola when he's fit on this day, but close to there, maybe as a impact player off the bench. But of course, he's never really been considered since the injury he got a couple of years ago. So I mean, he's going well with Exeter just now. So again, I'm with you there. It's quite baffling. But in other areas, obviously, he has taken on board the whole thing with the back row. Maybe not with Curry, but he's gone with a specialised flanker in Lewis Ludham at blindside. Gone with Saracens pairing of Itoje and of Cruz in the second row, and Mako back at 1. Are you happy enough with that?
Yes, Mako was more than just scrummaging, and actually scrummaging is probably not the highest skill set on Mako's lists. It's probably what he offers around the park that releases players like Curry and Underhill. Sounds so simple when you say it out loud, doesn't it? He'll make 20 plus tackles. He'll carry 15 times, and will still look like the kid who didn't put his school uniform on properly at the beginning of the day and lumber off the pitch after 70 minutes and be like, all right, yeah, I'll do that again next week. But it's what he does offer, and it's also personnel. It's people looking around the changing room and going, right, we're in the shit. We're not playing that well. Who's around me? Mako's here, that's all right. Faz is here, that's all right. Mauro's here. And you've got to go back to your big guns when you're in the trouble a bit, and you need to be dug out of it. And I think you'll see an unbelievable performance from Mako on Saturday. And look, I'm not sure, reading between the lines again, whether his relationship with Eddie Jones has taken a bit of a knock. Jones said a few bits after the World Cup final, didn't he, about whether he got his selection right in the front row. And then he said some stuff about George Ford as well. Yeah, he's picked George Ford again for the Six Nations for the first 2 matches. So
yeah,
you just never know with Eddie Jones.
With regards to Mako Vunipola, though, that's one area I'm kind of, from a Scottish perspective, a bit worried about, because of what he can do, his work rate around the pitch, and when he tackles, he often doesn't just tackle. He lets you know about it for the rest of the game. You can tell in most of his tackles that the opponents feel it. But with
Yeah.
I was going to get onto that actually. Him sticking with the Ford Farrell 10-12. Obviously worked in the World Cup very well against New Zealand, but I think that was just a whole 15 effort that day that beat the All Blacks then. But on the whole, I think England should be moving on from that a bit. What are your thoughts on that there?
Um, I'm quite torn on it, and if you ask me tomorrow, I'll probably give you a different answer than I do today. It The thing is, when the Ford and Farrell thing works, it's magic to watch.
Mm.
It is magic to watch. But I've said this generally, the team's got to go well for Ford and Farrell to go well.
Yeah,
We're very much a momentum team. Like when we got momentum against New Zealand, when we got momentum against Australia, you can't stop us. We're like a juggernaut. We get going, we get going. It's when it gets attritional and we got to go to the trenches, that's when we mentally don't quite have it right. What surprised me the most in the France game was that usually we play with two lines of attack, and Ford will hit Farrell behind the runners, or Farrell will hit Ford behind the runners. It was just one out off Young's two-step pass, two-step pass, two-step pass. And you can say whatever you want about Sean Edwards, and apparently he's the messiah now in France. Like at university, not physically, but we would have defended that. You know what I mean? Like not against England, obviously, but at international level. But if a team came and just started playing that, would you just tackle, 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 tackle? It was so bad. And then when we finally did decide to move it, yet again, passes over people's heads, passes behind. So that said, we could turn up, get some front foot ball at the weekend, and Ford and Farrell can click again, and all of a sudden it's genius to keep them in. So I don't know. I think this is probably last chance saloon for the combination. What I The other thought process for me is Farrell is a tremendous 10,
yeah,
but Eddie Jones has never really, in his slight defence, has never really had the full complement of people outside that to pick it. Now, had Tuilangi been fit this week, you may have seen Ford, Tuilangi, Joseph. So, you know,
I will say I was impressed last season with the Farrell. Apart from the second half against Scotland, obviously, I was impressed with the Farrell Tulangi Slade 10, 12, 13. I thought there was something really going there, and Slade I think at
yeah,
13 as well offers something a bit different, as well as like with his big left boot, and you have Farrell the right boot in there, but also
mm,
like Slade plays with a bit of variety, sort of, and gives a different, like I said, different option where and then you've got Tuolangi inside, who you know what Manu's gonna do generally in most games. So so I thought that was a good balance there, but of course Slade and Tuolangi injured just now, so I mean you've kind of
yeah. And the thing with Tuilangi, when he doesn't matter what shirt number he's got on, really, because he can come short or he can go long. Because what he brings is he will attract two or three defenders. Like that carry, the one carry that he got injured, he had three people hanging off his back.
yeah, yeah,
You know, in the warm-up games against Ireland, I think it was the Ireland game, he was coming short, he was going long. They couldn't defend him. They couldn't defend him at all. And again, that just allows Ford and Farrell to dictate, 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 sit back in the pocket and do whatever they want. So yeah, huge loss to Ilangi. Everyone thinks he just carries the ball hard, but he's quite an intelligent runner, and he stands up a
oh
defence.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah,
I
so I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think from a Scottish point of view, I'm kind of glad he's not playing, because if he was up against Hugh Jones, he'd basically sort of like just kerplunk him down, and sort of run all over him. And I've got reservations about Hugh Jones's defense generally anyway. So up against Tuolangi, I'd be like, oh, but I mean Joseph, if Joseph gets front football, he's not exactly less intimidating proposition to be up against, I'd say. But no, I think that's fair enough with your analysis of Tuolangi there. But I mean, pardon me, I forgot what I was going to ask there. What do you think of Scotland and how we'll do against you?
I thought, well, going back to the weekend, I think you must be kicking
Oh
yourselves.
yeah, yeah.
They, and it's like I'm glad not too much has been made of the Hog drop, to be honest with you, because although it was pretty brutal,
Hmm.
um, there was it only exaggerated the missed chances that weren't taken. To be honest with
Yeah.
you, it was sort of like yeah, it was just
I mean, I try.
it probably helped
Yeah.
a lot of players.
I tried to make it clear to folk that if he had scored that try, it would have only got us potentially level in the match. So it would have just maybe made the
Yeah,
score a bit close at the end. It wouldn't have guaranteed us a win at all. So, but
yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's one of those things like those. You can argue big moment things, but it was. Yeah, I was had a beer and I nearly threw it at the screen watching that. So, and the I but
No front beer. No rugby's worth front beer away.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It wasn't just that. It was just we had so much possession and we got Ireland on the back foot so many times, and then it was just like one or two runners where it got into the last phases in the 22 where there was not enough support, and they just allowed Ireland's jacklers just to get over the ball, have enough time to win the turnover, and CJ Stander, what an absolute brute he is as well. So
That was turnover. Yeah.
he had an immense game for Ireland, to be fair. So, I mean, that's the things that sort of like I think are fixable. If we can just learn to make sure we're getting when we get in the 22, there's always like sort of at least another support player there that's able to clear off, and that we're not so naive. I think we were naive quite a lot of the time with our runs in behind as well, and at times our kicking game was a bit so. But I mean, it's little technical things. I think if we can tidy up, we could do well. But to me, it's mostly what's between the ears with us. Like we can't go into this game thinking, okay, we had a pretty decent performance away to Ireland. No one was really expecting us to win, and we come away with a bonus point to go into this game. It's going to be, we know England. I mean, I know England are going to look for a backlash. They're going to be looking to be on it from the first whistle. So we need to be making sure we're absolutely spot on from the first whistle as well, and that we're playing smart, try not to go too wide early on. I mean, unless we get a good platform, of course, but just to make sure we're getting the good balance between knowing like when to keep it tight and knowing when to spread it wide, which we have a habit of being iffy on, to say the least.
No, I think I'm just looking at your team now. Like again, that back line really impressive. Hugh Jones, obviously, probably been picked on reputation rather than his current form. He's obviously had a bit of a wobble in the off season about where he wants to be as well. But look, he's back in the squad now. He stayed. He stayed in Scotland, which is obviously a good thing. And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Hugh
I don't
Jones.
I
I think
don't
he's
think that was ever an issue with his. Pardon me. I don't think that was ever an issue with his national status though. It was more club, like if he was going moving to.
yeah. It's unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah,
I suppose from a perspective, and it may have taken him out of the window, I suppose. But
I suppose so.
um,
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah, the Stormers went for Jamie Roberts in the end, though. But no, look, your backline's exciting. It's really exciting. There's some Johnson's just getting better and better and better. But like you said, it's just one of those things. It just didn't quite click on the day. But if it clicks against England, then our backline should be very fearful. I think I think you can blame the guy who was trying to offload or pass, but like you said, the runners that were coming through was too tight. They were like left and right. You couldn't like you sort of funneled and then didn't
Hmm.
because you're supposed to funnel out and
Yeah,
go out. It funneled and then sort of just followed like train tracks. And it didn't really give that guy with the offload too many options. So I'm sure they'll have looked at that as a basic thing to get rid of. I think this game will be won and lost at the breakdown.
yeah.
The back row, obviously 2 years ago we got destroyed. Your boys took it. Watson, we need to look after Watson. It's as simple as that. We need to someone just that's what Ludlam needs to do. Ludlam, every time you see Hamish Watson go near a breakdown, hit him. Right, just hit him. Like almost man mark him. And I think if you can take Watson out, I'm not saying that the other two aren't good over the ball at all, but I'm just saying you've got to keep that guy out of the game because once he gets momentum, like I said, England are a momentum team. You take our momentum away from us and we start panicking, we start throwing passes that we shouldn't be throwing. So I think that's where it'll be won and lost. I think the front five, I think we've probably got the edge on you
Yeah,
guys.
that's
I mean,
that's
Johnny Graves, tackling machine. But that counts for nothing if we get turned over constantly. So yeah, I think that back row is probably key, absolutely key.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be fair, in the scrums against France, he absolutely mullered them. Same in the lineouts, and our lineout has a habit of being a bit
Mm,
shaky as well. So that's one area I think Scotland definitely need to tighten up in. Yeah, I mean, right, absolutely right about Watson, but also Jamie Ritchie. I think he's a big workhorse around the field. I think he's not at Watson's level yet as a rugby player, but he's getting there. He's still got a bit to go, and then. It's good to have Magnus Bradbury back in the squad, even though I'm not sure I would have started him because I thought Nick Haynen did enough to keep his spot. But
great.
that's the way Gregor Townsend's gone, and Bradbury's as you saw at Twickenham last year, he's a very capable back row player. So I think yeah, I mean I think that's probably going to be where sort of the tight margins are going to fit, and I would say the same with regards to the back row of Bradbury to make sure he's in Tom Curry's face, and of Watson or Ritchie to make sure they're man marking Underhill, because even though Underhill didn't have a great game against France, on his day that he's up there with the very best of them, so you've got to try and keep him quiet as well, and try and make him put him into positions where he's going backwards with his tackling, because if you're running more or less straight at him, he's just going to smash you backwards. Yeah, I think that's I agree there. I think in the tight five, hopefully we can get. It's one area we improved on. I noticed against Ireland is our scrummaging. So I'm hoping we can. I'm not saying we're necessarily going to dominate that battle. I think we'll be, but I mean, if we can get at least a bit of parity, I mean that'll be fine there for me. But one question, obviously Ben Young's nose dropped to the bench. A couple of questions actually. One, Willie Haynes at 9. Are you convinced by him?
Uh, he's a better option at the moment than Young's. It's like
For
the
form,
political
yeah,
answer.
yeah.
No, look, I think uh, I sound like I'm like 2 months ago. I loved Eddie Jones. Now I'm sort of picking holes in him. But I think again, like, why two scrum halves and why not like Ben Spencer? Give him a run in the shirt. Dan Robson, give him pick a third scrum half and maybe just rotate them for Six Nations. I'm not against a bit of experimentation in the Six Nations, like almost sacrifice one to really hit your stride in the next 3 years and find out where you're at. Because where else are you going to do it apart from the odd sort of tier two international? What do we really learn from those? But I just think Ben Spencer would give you something different, and Dan Robson's just scary off the
Mm-hmm.
base. He's
Yeah.
just scary. Um,
He's been looking pretty.
imagine
I
that.
say with Dan Robson, what I've seen of him since he got back from his injury, he's been looking decent for Wasps for the little bits and pieces I've seen of him.
Yeah, and he's just imagine that coming off the bench in 60
Mm-hmm.
minutes, and you're flagging a bit in the back row, and you got Dan Robson picking off the base of a ruck when it's
Aye.
getting a bit loose.
And he picks really good lines as well in support
Oh,
lines.
lovely.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and the fact you've gone like two scrum halves are in their 30s now. I mean, Hines is 33, Ben Young's 30. You think, are you not starting the process for 2023, Eddie Jones?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these 4 year cycle. Like, I want to win matches in between it. Yes, the attitude should be we want to win a World Cup every 4 years. That should be every um, national team's attitude. And yeah, it does sort of start 4 years out, but I don't think that should be the buzz phrase. To be honest with you, like
Yeah, that's.
what I want to see is long-term progression. And if you have to sacrifice a little bit for that, it's not about experimenting people in different positions. It's about experimenting different personnel in their positions. And that's not what Eddie Jones is doing at the moment. He's just, yeah, I don't know the thought process behind two nines which are doing okay. I mean, like, the way Hines got smashed by Dupont should not be happening.
Mm-hmm.
Great theatre for the French, and great for the highlight reel. But it was such a ponderous little line across. It was obviously a set move, but he sort of almost like he took a step and went, "Oh yeah, I've got a. Oh no, no, I'm on my arse." So it was. I just want to see some bite from 9. Get in there, dig the ball out. Let's get like Youngs wasn't digging the ball out. So no, I wouldn't have both of them in there. If you want to keep one, maybe keep Hines, and maybe just tell Youngs you're not good enough at the moment. Go back, find some form, and you can have your place back. This isn't you out of the reckoning, but what'll happen is if we have another bad game on Saturday, he'll clear out the decks, but it'll be 2 games too late. So
Well, for
we'll see.
the championship at least, but still could be get a bit of pride maybe for final 3 games, but yeah, that's. I mean, I'm not. That's for after Saturday, I'd say. But yeah, I mean, I'm the same boat. I think I don't know why he's not sort of giving at least Ben Spencer a place in the squad, or he's not giving Dan Robson a place back. It's it's quite baffling to me. And the same actually, I think with keeping George Ford at 10. He's not been great for Leicester since he got back from the World Cup. Again, you can always argue with the hangover thing. Is there a World Cup hangover? But at the same time, if you're that out of form, I mean, that was the thing that really baffled me about England on Saturdays. Because you can lose games, but it's just how out of form, how just they didn't look sharp at all for the first 60 minutes. And it was only, and I stand by. It was only really Johnny May that made it a bit of a contest near the end. So it's sort of. But I mean, that's the thing. If we can keep Johnny May quiet, I'll be happy. I'll be very happy there.
Yeah, I mean he is genuinely now turning into a world class wing. I mean,
Well, he is a world class
if he's
wing.
not
Yeah.
already there, yeah. I mean that first try,
That
the
was
way he
brilliant.
kept the ball on the toe and did it. I mean the second try, I think Teddy Thomas thought it had turned into touch rugby. It was like, I tried to tackle him. It was like me at under nines, but yeah, it was. There's some bad tackling going on there, but that first one was genuinely brilliant,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. Uh,
Are you,
but if you don't get the space, he can't do anything, can he? So
yeah, and that's the thing. You don't see tries like that first one. You don't see tries that often like that these days. Like just like individual bit of skill. It was absolutely yeah. I thought that was the try of last weekend, to be honest. But
mm,
yeah, that's but I think it's set. What am I saying? Yeah, as I mentioned at set pieces as well. I think that's where England could have the edge over us. You were saying the back row. Do you
mm.
think there's anything in the set pieces that might swing the game either way? Or
Um, I mean, our line out's pretty spot on. So I think we'll see a lot of off the top ball from England. I'm not sure we're going to want to get into a fist fight, and we might catch and drive near your line,
yeah, yeah,
but I don't think we. I think there'll be a lot of first phase front foot ball, and they'll try and attack your 10-12 channel. There's no point in going inside the 10. Price is quick, Watson's quick. They're all going to be off the line looking for that. So I would attack that 10-12 channel. I'm not saying that they're bad defenders at all, but I just think that's where you need to go. Um, and drag that 12-13 in, then hit it wide. Like we did last Six Nations, like we have done for the last 2 years. That's how we've beaten people. We've drawn in defenders and then just nailed it out wide. So in the scrum, I don't really know how the scrum's going to go. We should have the upper hands. We should have, but Ferguson's is a good scrummager. We obviously know about Fraser, about Brown. So I don't know too much about Sutherland. I don't know whether
he's
they'll sort
he
of attack Sutherland, but
he was a prospect with Edinburgh a few years ago. I think there was a lot of people who were touting him to be I wouldn't go as far as to say the next big thing number ones, but sort of a pretty good player. Then he had a really bad injury. He's not played that much rugby in the past couple of years, but he's back for Edinburgh now. And he's the thing is though, we don't have any first choice loose heads for their clubs. Because all the loose head props we've picked, none of them are first choice for their clubs. I mean, because Sutherland is behind Schumann, Edinburgh, for the most of the part. But I thought against Ireland he was very decent actually. He looked looked at home. He scrummaged well, stood up well to Furlong, which is saying something, and he looked decent in the loose as well. So I'd say sort of I'm happy enough with him there just now for us.
yeah. And I'm just looking at the bench as well. And I think our bench is probably stronger than yours. But again, it all depends on the match situation. Are you coming to close a game out? Are you coming to
Yeah,
chase a
yeah.
game?
What are your thoughts on the
If,
6-2
if we,
split for England on the bench?
oh, I don't like it. Don't like it. Um, I just, you've got a scrum half who's out of form, and then you've got Ollie Devoto, who's very, look, he's been around the block in a domestic capacity, Bath and then on to Exeter. Plays great rugby for Exeter, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but he is very much a utility player. So if we get an injury, you've got one player to come on. So what if Johnny May pulls his hamstring in the first couple of minutes?
Well, yeah.
Like
Well,
Jonathan Jones then has to go to the wing. Then obviously Devoto comes in. So then Joseph's position's changed. Everything you've planned for the first 60 minutes changes. It's just, it's risky. It's risky. But look, everyone's going to say, well, it worked for South Africa, but South Africa play a certain type of game,
yeah,
and that is to be as powerful as possible for 80
yeah. I
minutes.
mean,
And that's what they
yeah.
do. That's not what we like to do. We're not going to change to that game as well. I can't see us changing to that game.
I was just about to say there. I think that's maybe where Eddie Jones is trying to target is up front. Why he's got and at the line out as well, which is why there's two both Laws and Launchbury are on the bench. And I think that's probably in his thinking for the last 20 minutes or so. If he's got Scotland into a position where he feel like, okay, I can wear them down, I can bring these guys on, the bomb squad as it was with South Africa. But I mean, I don't think the same.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be the work quite the same as South Africa. But I mean, if the game's tight in the last 20 minutes and a few of our forwards are out on their feet a bit, then it might be an effective tactic. But we'll see. I think we are a fitter team. Maybe not as big, but we are a fitter team than France were, and I think that was why France faded a little bit in the last 20 minutes of that game. On the game on Sunday is because their fitness is still. They looked fitter than they had been in a long time, I will say, but there's still sort of areas there they're needing
Yeah.
to work on the whole.
Sean Edwards has been beasting them apparently.
Yeah.
Not happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, oh, you could tell for most of the game, you could tell. I mean, even in the last, I mean, this is on France. Even in the last 20 minutes of that game, when you could tell they were tiring a bit, they were still getting up, keeping their shape. Sort of still making their tackles with quite good weight on them. So they weren't. They were looking tired. They were tiring, but they weren't slacking off. They weren't. Sort of. They were actually staying in the game and making it tough at least. So that's France though. Anything else to say on England or?
No, I mean, look, from a let me. I probably need a head and a heart discussion here. From a head perspective, uh, a good start is everything to us. It was everything to us last Six Nations. We scored in the first or second minute of three, four of the five games. I can't remember what it was now. Um, and then just when people chase against us, that's when we're at our best. So the start has to be out of the blocks. We need all the cliches are going to come out now. They need to shut the crowd up. They need to stop the booing. They need to stop the cheering. They literally need to shut Murrayfield up. Otherwise, we're in for a long, long afternoon. My heart says I just want to see some heart. I want to see that was a wake up call last week. I want to see that there's a reaction. I want to stop looking around thinking you're feeling sorry for yourself. You're feeling sorry for yourself. Like, you're wearing the England shirt. Yeah. We've had some knocks. So be it. So be it. It happens to everybody. Just because everybody loves it when England get knocked more than anybody else, don't worry about it. Disprove these people. Get back on the horse and get out there and start playing rugby with confidence. Start playing on the gain line, because that's the one thing I will say about George Ford. When he plays with his shoulder forward, timing those passes, there's probably no one better in Europe at doing that attacking sort of skill. It's absolutely beautiful to watch. On the back foot, not so much. So, look, as long as I see a reaction, as long as I see some more sensible ball carrying, because we got isolated a few times, and we shore up that breakdown, we'll be fine. I don't think we'll walk away with a big victory or anything like that. I think it will be tight. I think Scotland need to be fully respected. They've got an exciting back line, but we need to shut your forwards up and we need to shut your back row up. And if we manage that, we'll be all right. We'll be fine, and I'm sure we'll come away with a W. But I'm definitely not taking it for granted. I'm actually quite worried about it.
Yeah.
What's the weather forecast?
I haven't checked yet. Actually, I'll need to do that. But worth noting that Scotland at Murrayfield, last 16 games we've won 12 and lost 4, and all 4 of those losses we've lost by single-digit score numbers. So shows that Murrayfield's a tough place to go to, whoever it is. But I think, I mean,
That's what makes it so frustrating.
well, you haven't beaten us the last two. You haven't beaten us since you put 60 points in us at Twickenham a couple of years ago. So, I mean, that's something that's I'm finding very encouraging, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'd say like the heart, of course. No, you know where my heart is. Head is saying that we should go out, play with confidence, but also with a sense of caution as well. Don't let England get their tails up early on. Make sure we're trying to keep them on the back foot, smart with our kicking game where we can be. Making sure we're getting at the very least parity at set pieces. We don't have to be. I mean, we don't have to be like all over England there. I don't think. Because I think it's somewhat wasted energy. But if we get it right in the loose and we get our support lines better than we did against Ireland, we can cause, I think, a lot of problems. And then if our backline have got a platform, of course. Even though we're missing
Yeah.
Finn Russell, which I think is still a big blow. I think.
I'm glad you mentioned him.
I was gonna say I think that's still a big blow, but I think Adam Hastings is a capable enough 10, and on his day he's capable of ripping through any defense and creating space for and creating things for his back line. So, I mean, if we can get that right, I think we could be fairly confident, and to make sure we're getting momentum early on, to rattle England, because that's the thing with England, as you were saying with momentum. You notice when England just get really rattled, they really struggle to get them heads out of it. Like, it was evident, of course, against South Africa, the World Cup final, when South Africa dominated them up front. England didn't have a way out of it after that. And it was even like last year when when it was 31-0 and then Scotland came back, made 38-31, when the momentum just completely went away from England, and they just didn't know a way to get back into the game at all. In terms of momentum, obviously the score was still pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, there's I've said it numerous times now. There is definitely a mental
Mm-hmm.
weakness in this England squad. They they can't go to the trenches. They can't. If it's not free flowing, they fall apart, man. They fall apart. But going back to Hastings and Finn Russell, forget what happened, but I think Hastings adds a lot of structure to your game that sometimes you're just missing with Russell. Like when Russell's a bit like England. When the going's good, Russell's great, and like don't get me wrong, class, absolutely. Some of the stuff he's been doing at Racing this season has been unbelievable. But Hastings gave me a real structure last Saturday, which I think Johnson quite enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
having and knowing exactly what was going to happen. So yeah, it's double-edged sword, isn't it? You do lose a big player, but I think Hastings is a good replacement.
But Hastings can have his moments though. If you're watching him for Glasgow this season, he can have moments where he does, as you say, keep the structure and keeps the game ticking and does control things pretty well.
Mm.
Like in the Glasgow against Exeter game in January, he had an excellent game that day. But he can also have games where he just completely goes missing, which ain't good enough for a 10. Where he's just not getting his backline going at all, and he's making mistakes, and then when that happens, of course, you get sort of folk slag him off more, because obviously there's some folk in Scotland who still think that he's only picked because of who his dad is, which is unfair in my opinion, because I never thought of maybe he's had a bad game for Scotland. There's times he's looked a little out of his depth, but he's still young, and he's still learning, I think. But with regards to Russell, he's someone who, as you say, can be a bit of a maverick. He can be a bit
Mm.
unpredictable, but also I think that I see that more as a strength, because it keeps the defense on their toes, and because you don't know what the 10's going to do sometimes, and it also I can understand it can at times be a little bit more frustrating to play with because you think, oh, what's he done sometimes, but
Yeah,
it works brilliantly.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, your score prediction. You think if England get all you said going well, you'll be all right. You got a prediction
England by 9.
by 9. Okay,
By 9.
okay. Heart saying
Come on.
Scotland by 50. Uh, head. I think I'm not gonna say a winner. I think it'll be one score, whoever wins it. So, but that's a try, a penalty, a drop goal. I think it'll be one score.
Get off the fence. Get off the fence. Come on.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Let me hit Scotland by one score then.
All right, I'll give you
But no,
that.
it should be a cracking game, hopefully. And from the neutral's perspective, hope it goes down to the wire. From a biased perspective, if we win by 50 points, I'd be delighted. I'm sure you're the same, Andrew.
I'm sure it's going to be close. I say 9 points, but I think it will still be 5 or 6 points with 4 or 5 minutes to go. I don't think it's going to be in the balance right to the end. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, again, I think momentum will play a factor as well. Especially when it comes to England. Like if we can get right underneath their skins early doors, they could struggle to find a way back. But again, not impossible, of course. Okay, I think we'll wrap up there. It's good to have you on, man. Thanks very much, and
Ready?
thanks for listening, guys. Hope you like what we had to say. And I'll have a couple other previews for the other games coming up later on. In the meantime, take care.